Here we are on the ground floor of my latest version of a Redstone elevator. Let me walk through how it works, and then I'll cover how to make it. Let's say we want to go to floor 5. We'll turn this lectern to the 5th page, hit this button, and as soon as we do so, we can step in, and it'll take us up to the 5th floor at a speed of 11 blocks per second. Once we're there, we can step out and go to a different floor. Maybe we wanted to go up 1 to the 6th floor. We hit the button again, you'll notice this empties out, and refill, and take us up a floor. From the 6th floor, maybe we want to go back down to the 1st. So I'll hit this, and that drops us down to the 1st floor. Downwards is just gravity, so that's about as fast as you can move downwards. And it supports up to 15 floors. This one here I've built up to 9, but the pattern continues, and you can have every floor be arbitrarily tall. Anywhere from 3 blocks, which is the minimum, up to the total floor to build limit in a single floor. The redstone is exactly the same, it just scales linearly for all the intermediate floors. And here we are now at the top, so 9th floor and higher stops here. If we were to input the 15th, it would just take us to here for now, but we could easily move this and continue to go upwards. So as you can see, it's quite small. Every one of the slices is only 3 by 7, and then each one of the floors adds an additional 2 blocks out to the side. And this is tileable every 3 blocks. So let me move over here, and we'll showcase what the 3 types of sections are. So for any given layer, it'll look something like this, where you have a 3-block width and 5-block depth, where you have 2 communication channels, or actually 3 communication channels, really. So let me talk about one of the floors first, and then we'll tie that back into these comms channels. So at one of the floors, we have several circuits. First one is a decoder that takes this page and converts it to a signal strength with a comparator. When we press the button on this observer, it'll fire this block, completing the circuit temporarily, and then disconnecting it. So for a lower page value here, we'll get a weaker signal going in here. And the strength of that signal then determines how long this clock stays active. So you can see this signal strength is copied over to these 2 blocks, and then it steps down 1 when it loops around. So if I was to input a small value, we'll see this will only be on for a short amount of time. If I was to input a large value, then the same circuit stays on for much longer as it fades for longer. While the circuit is on, then this trapdoor flips into the open stage. And you'll notice that these walls here, they change their state when there's a full block adjacent. And toggling this trapdoor will open and close them. I'm realizing here this bottom section has, I think, a block on the inside. We'll ignore that and drop this for now. So ignore that. We should be able to see that this propagates all the way down instantly, and then depropagates as soon as this is open and closed. So toggling this sends from any floor, instantly sends the signal all the way to the ground floor for processing. From there, we're going to send the signal back up, and at each floor determine whether or not it was on for long enough to activate that floor. So that's what's going on over here, which I realized I've just broken when I flooded it. Let me rebuild this really quickly. We're going to put a repeater here, and close this up. So what's actually going on in here? That's where we get to the second channel, and I guess I need to explain why we have this water here. So when the signal hits the very, very bottom block, right? So we had that wall propagation come from any floor down to the ground floor, which is over here. This observer notices the state changing, and so it'll fire when this wall changes its state, right? So that's even if this wall is taller, and then higher up, when we close the trapdoor, then it sends all the way down, and we have this fire. So in the default state, we have soul sand here at the bottom of this water channel. And what's interesting is the soul sand, so it's both sending bubbles up, which will carry you to the surface, but we can also observe that change with an observer. So when bubbles are propagating up through this column, that's a different state that the observer will see compared to when there are no bubbles. And that propagation is also instantaneous. There is a delay, but it all happens at the same time, which means all of these floors will receive both the start and stop at the same exact time on the same tick. So now we just need to decode that length of time, which is again determined by this signal strength, into a just a binary on-off for whether or not this floor should be active. And the way we're doing that is with more walls and more trapdoors. So at each floor, you'll have a hopper clock with some number of items, and the number of items there determines how long this clock needs to be active in order to switch states. So you can see this repeater here is locked because it's receiving power from the side, right? So this redstone block here is powering this repeater, which is locking this one here. If the signal here that's coming up through the water column is on for long enough, right? So this will fire twice, once when the bubbles disappear and once when they reappear. So when it fires twice, that'll move this redstone block over, and with enough time, these will, all of these items will flood out, and then this will change its state. So instead of being powered and having this trapdoor be up, it switches to the down state. So, oops, I should not have done that. Let's really quickly rebuild this area, and let me drop those repeaters back in. Sorry about that. We'll drop that there, and this here. Okay, so when this is out for long enough, right, we've received a high enough signal strength in, then this floor toggles its state, and then even when this comes back, this is locked in the off state, so it'll hold its state even after it resets. Now let's say it gets changed to just a short pulse, right, so we're calling like a lower floor, then this one comes out, and before it has time to empty, the block gets pulled back, in which case this stays locked on. So the redstone savvy individuals might have noticed that this clock is on a 2 redstone tick cycle, right? So every 2 ticks, this decreases by 1. But the hopper clock activates on a 4 tick cycle. So these don't actually match 1 to 1. And so we have to do one extra step, which is every other floor, we change this repeater from being 1 tick to 3 ticks. So that changes the total cycle time here, basically to work on a 2 redstone tick interval. And so the very, very first floor, I'll show over here, contains 5 items. I guess rather the first stage. So the second floor activator contains 5 items, and it's set to a single tick. And then from there, you go 6 items and 3 ticks, 6 items and 1 tick, 7 items, 3 ticks, 7 and 1, etc. So only the first platform here has 5 items, and then otherwise it's 6 and 3, 6 and 1, 7 and 3, 7 and 1, 8 and 3, 8 and 1, continuing all the way up, and that pattern continues up to the 15th floor. I think that's the majority of the mechanics, so now I can talk about how that's going to be built. But let's just go through the whole system once more. We input a signal strength. That signal strength turns into a length of time for this clock. That length of time gets sent all the way down with this single communication channel, this instant downward signal on this wall. That gets converted into a upward signal that can be read by all of the floors, right? So from any floor, we now have a signal that goes all the way to the bottom and can be read from all of the floors using this bubble elevator. And actually, I should show how that works. This observer fires into this redstone, which toggles the state of this block. So nothing complicated at the bottom. And then at each floor, we decode that length of time into a binary yes or no, should this floor be active. Within each floor, there are, actually I'll show it from this side. There are a series of dispensers that will toggle whether or not the main travel channel has water or not. So each one of these comes with a bucket of water, and you only need observers every 3 dispensers. So for smaller floors, you only need 1 observer. For larger floors, you'll need multiple. And if it's not a multiple of 3 blocks, then you can just put your observers closer together. So there's 2 and 2, or 2 block space between them. I think higher up, there's maybe a 1 block space somewhere. It doesn't really matter. We could replace all of these blocks with more observers. You could have the whole thing be observers like over there. All works the same, but this is the minimum number required. And because we fire all the observers on the same tick, because for any given floor, the walls all switch at the same time, we don't get any sort of wacky block update powering, where because one of the observers has updated the other one, or because one of the dispensers updates the ones around it when it fires, and you get like secondary firings, and sometimes they'll disconnect. So doing them all at once is a lot simpler. I'll do one more demo and then get into the specifics of building each section. For on the 7th floor, let's just walk through that same process. So we set it to a very small signal strength. The expectation here is that this will only stay on for a very small amount of time, which means this channel only stays active for a small amount of time. And so none of these, all the pistons will move out, and by the time that they pull them back, none of them will have drained. So let me reduce the tick rate to something slower, and we'll set this firing from the side. You'll notice this goes on, the signal goes to the bottom, these fire out, and they all fire at the same time. So you'll notice they'll all come back at some point. And in that time, none of these toggled, and so we should see that they're all still empty. If we change this to a higher value, something like floor 6, so it should get not to, actually let's do 7th floor. So it should fill up to this floor, but not above it. When I fire this, we'll see this stays on for a longer time because it's a higher signal strength. And so when these all get pushed out, let me move over here so this should be visible. We'll see that this one will just finish draining. So this last item is going to disappear. And as it does, this one toggles its state. It fires this floor, but not the next one. So you notice these walls are open, those ones are closed. And so the closed walls have the observers fire, and we have the floor set. Hopefully that was a good explanation, and everyone's now familiar with the concepts. I'm not going to build an entire elevator because, of course, everyone's going to be different if you're going from a certain level to a certain other one, but I can show how each one of these layers works, or each one of the real sections, like the floor, the bottom, and the layer. The layers are super simple. You just have a dispenser with a water bucket feeding into your travel channel. I like having glass blocks here. Strictly speaking, you only need something here to keep water from flooding out. These can be glass panes, it can be glass blocks, it can be solid blocks. It could even be, like, if you're building this in like underground area, you can just leave this as whatever the natural stone is. So you don't have to dig out past here, right? You can just leave this wall here, and then it'll travel up it here. But I think it looks nicer if you have some sort of visibility as to what you're passing through. So let's replace those with glass. And then one thing to note, while the elevator only takes up a 3 block by 5 block width, if you are digging underground, you have to dig out one extra channel right here, because this is fine, right? Nothing's contacting these walls. But if you were to leave this stuff right here, then you get problems because you can't actually transmit signals down. So you need to have one extra air gap on the sides. So I guess if you were digging out everything, your minimum tunnel to dig is, I guess, okay, the absolute minimum. If you wanted to do the least amount of work, you could leave these solid blocks as non-replaced ones. So I guess you could dig either, I guess you can leave those as well, and then leave all of this and leave all of this. So really, this is the bare minimum that you need to dig out for this elevator to work. And then you'll replace these parts with walls, these parts with walls, drop water. And I think it's easiest to fill these channels with, what do you call it, like kelp. And the same thing for actually building the travel channel. Rather than carrying a lot of water buckets that you then have to place manually into every dispenser, fill the dispensers with empty buckets, right, which you can carry in a stack of 16. So you can just go up, place all your dispensers, and then one at a time fill them with buckets, and then fill this entire area with water using kelp again, right? So you place water at the very top, kelp blocks all the way to the surface, and then you can, once these fire, then it'll collect the water. Note that you'll have to build it inverted, but it's not too challenging. So that's any given slice. And then you just build this upwards repeating. I like using smooth stone because then it's easy to count blocks, but really these can be any solid block, and the walls can be any type of wall as well. So it doesn't matter what type those are. And again, the dispensers are on every level, but the observers can be on every third for most floors. when you're actually let's, before we talk about this, because this is the most complicated, let's do the bottom. So the bottom, again, you'd have the same copied thing as what was going on for each layer, except you don't have this observer dispenser pair coming in here. So, and I guess this also is technically not a wall. This is the very, very bottommost receiving wall on that primary channel. You have an observer sticking out from it, and then it feeds into this sticky piston that just fires the state of a soul sand block. It's important for the timings that I have that the soul sand starts on the side that has the comms channel, right? So you have bubbles as the default state when everything's empty. And then when it fires, then this comes out to the side and then fires a second time, it comes back. That's because I think the time for the bubbles to disappear and reappear is different. So, but it's still instant propagating over the whole thing. That's it for this bottom channel. It's important to leave one block of water with soul sand at the very, very bottom, because when you drop down from a different floor, you don't want to be landing on like an empty block, which is why this is not a dispenser. And this should be one block lower than your ground floor. So if your ground floor is out here, right, then you want to be able to land in this step up. Okay, lastly, the most complex and most interesting part. Here I have what it looks like when it's tiled. So this floor, so this circuit is associated with this floor, and then this circuit here is for activating everything below it, right? So when this fires, then it should, if we had dispensers here, control click, if we had these guys here, this last observer here, that's checking what's happening with this signal, will fire both of these observers as well as the one below it, which is just enough to get the water to floor height. So the fence gates here are not strictly necessary. You could do signs, you could do a door. I like these because then you don't need an extra set of blocks on the sides. You can keep it open and clean, and so it's easier to then be able to reach these, but it doesn't matter as long as you keep the water from flooding out when this is active, that's fine. So you could do a pressure plate at the bottom and a open fence gate at the top. That would work. That can actually be nice because then you can't accidentally fall in. So let me change that to this, and then let's grab a pressure plate. And so you might do something like this. And then when you step in, the default is going to be that this is closed, right? You can step in, it'll open, and then close behind you. And same thing when you're stepping out, right? You get out, and it's like this. But it doesn't matter. These can be signs both on the front side and the bottom. So you can do something like this. You can do something like this, but that looks bad. So use your best judgment, your interpretation, use whatever you want. Just block the water from coming out. Moving onward. So this circuit here, not too complicated to send the signal down. We have a comparator reading this lectern. That comparator is going to plug into an air gap, but with a block underneath. All of these here should be slabs, or rather, the most important one is that the slab next to the wall column that carries redstone is a slab, not a full block. Because if this was a full block, you'll notice that this wall is now active because it's connecting to it. So we want this to be a slab that we put our redstone on top. So on top of this, let's build it out one piece at a time. We have this comparator coming out of the lectern, an observer with a button on its face. We'll grab a sticky piston that's pointing downwards. So if nothing else, right, this is already going to pass a signal into here. And then we just do a comparator fader clock where you have redstone on top, a target block, which will redirect the output of this comparator clock into a trapdoor that's placed against the wall. That's important. So the trapdoor can't be on the target block because then it would open the wrong way. Instead, it should open to contact the wall. Moving around the back, we have to shift this down slightly from where we're actually inputting the signal because we don't want any sort of cross-contamination from this redstone line and this redstone line here. So if this was actually up a block, which is what I had initially, then you get problems when this block is powered because of the clock. Then it actually comes in contact with this redstone, and then you get all sorts of wacky stuff. So we're not going to have that. Instead, this gets shifted down, but it's still tileable every 3 blocks. So if I look over here, you'll see this section here corresponds to this circuit and this floor. And then immediately afterwards, we have this section here, which is not interacting with this circuit, and that's for the next floor. So stylable every 3 blocks. So what's actually happening here? We have the floor from which you're going to step out. Actually, let me change that. So you have your floor level, which there's water, and on that same floor level, you put the observer that's going to be reading the bubble state for that floor. So we have the observer, it goes into this circuit over here. I think it's easiest to build these parts first and then at the end drop this guy in. So you'll have a block with redstone, a hopper clock, so 2 hoppers pointing into each other. So you can place one and then a second and then bring this one back in. Or you could do a dummy block, hopper, hopper. We just want them feeding into each other. The redstone block goes on top of the first hopper, and inside there should be on the first floor, or rather the first level that you're building, right? Because the ground floor doesn't have this whole circuit. It should always be active. The first one has 5 of whatever item. Can be, I recommend doing something that doesn't mix with blocks that might fall in during the build process. So seeds or named items, even better. That way, if when you're building it, and let's say you dig something and it falls in, it'll be very easy to distinguish, oh, whoops, there's a redstone dust in here. That doesn't belong. So some sort of identifiable item, and you start with 5, then you'll go to 6, etc. for the rest. I'll have a list of full materials, or actually rather a spreadsheet where you can type in the number of floors that you want and the height, and it'll give you a pretty good estimate for what amount of resources you need, because of course it varies per project. Every elevator is going to be different, but that'll get you very close to the right amount. So yeah, that link is in the description, and if you make a copy of the spreadsheet, then you can change it, do whatever you want. So the last part, sorry, I got sidetracked. So we have this hopper clock with a sticky piston pushing this redstone block back and forth. We're reading out this hopper's state with a comparator into a solid block or a redstone dust, but solid block is cheaper. And we're locking the output of this repeater, which is set to 1 tick, with either a 1 tick or 3 tick repeater, right? So first floor is 5 and 1, then you go 6, 3, 6, 1, 7, 3, 7, 1, etc., going upwards. And then lastly, we just want to be able to transmit this signal through this block to the sticky piston. And I think that's really it. So relatively simple, not too expensive. Really the hardest part is the dispensers and the sticky pistons. If you don't have a slime farm or you don't have a great source of string, these can be tricky. String's not too bad if you're okay with duplication glitches. So I'll show how to make a string farm, or I'll just link one. There's plenty of people who have done that. So you can get lots of string pretty easily. The slime can be a pain. So unfortunately you need two slime per floor, right? One for the back, one for the front. Not too expensive though. Everything else is just redstone. This uses a lot of cobblestone for the dispensers and the observers, and a lot of building blocks, depending on how tall it gets. So that's that. Please let me know if you have questions, comments, concerns in the comments. I'll try to get back to you on those. This should be functional in 1.16 and above. That's where the wall mechanic got introduced. I haven't tested it on Bedrock, so this is just for Java Edition for now. At some point, maybe I'll take a look at converting it if it needs conversion. And I guess, yeah, that's most of it. Feel free to experiment with changing things around, shifting stuff forwards and backwards if you want a larger profile, but maybe a cleaner front. So there's other ways of doing this input circuit here, where, for example, where's one of these older versions? One of these, no. Hold on, this is too messy. I was experimenting with lots of different options for how to do those inputs best. You can hide note blocks in there so it gets a little chime and a ding. Ignore all that. So consider subscribing if you enjoyed it. If not, that's fine. Let me know in the comments what you would prefer to see. Thanks, and have a great day.